Hey everybody, Matthew Solomon here, and I've been meaning to do a video all week, and I would get inspired by something, and then get ready to share, and then other stuff would come up or work or whatever, and then there's all this stuff on social media that keeps coming and going and changing it, and it just seems like there's something new every day or a couple times a day or whatever, and so here I am on this beautiful Sunday morning here in Los Angeles. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a coach. I coach on whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever you want to create in your life, whatever you want to experience. I'm also an award winning filmmaker, and I've done features, shorts. I've been in the entertainment business my whole adult life, and so I have that experience as well. I've studied metaphysics, relationships, communication, all of that for pretty much my entire adult life. Um, so I was on my walk this morning, looking at the being in nature and settling myself. And the thing is, pretty much, most of the people I know are dealing with some heavy shit right now. There's a lot of heavy shit going around that it's a lot. And I've had friends who have had friends that have been like really heavily affected. There's been suicides. There's been the everybody sharing their Me Too experiences. People dealing with that currently, and just a lot of stuff going on. And so what do we do with that? Um, Community, communication. Um, I posted a thing earlier this week that in any relationship, whether it's romantic or work or friends or whatever, all we want is to be heard and loved and understood. And, we've all, I would say, I have experienced, we all experienced early in our lives where we're not, or there's a situation where we feel rejected or set aside, separated from the group, or it becomes unsafe to be who we are, which, we are alive, joyous, happy beings. Like when we're born, we're like a little ball of energy and love and happiness, and then somewhere along the line in our first 7 to 8 years, something happens, and then we make a decision on how we're going to deal with that. And so I can speak from my experience, and everybody has their own individual experience. So one thing that I've really been looking at is there's been this thing that's happened in my life in school, and I'll share what that is. But I've been looking at it through the lens of an adult, with my adult awareness, with my adult reasoning, with my adult, oh yeah, that happened, and I don't have to do that anymore or be at the effect of it anymore. But I haven't really gotten to the core of it. And I hadn't gotten to the core of it because I'd been looking at it through the eyes of an adult and not through the eyes of a 8-year-old child. And or an 8-year-old being, I should say. I actually don't even like saying child. An 8-year-old being. Okay. And so I was hanging out with my kids, and my boys are 9. I have twin boys, and my daughter's almost 13. And I really got how my experience at that age was totally different. Like it had a huge, it was like life or death for me at that age. And so what happened was, um, I went to Hebrew school 3 times a week to learn about Judaism, to learn Hebrew, to learn about the religion that I was born into. And this was from, well, Sunday school started 2nd or 3rd grade. Hebrew school was like 4th grade to 7th grade. So from the time I was like 7 years old until I was 13 or 14, I was going to this other school after school. And so, 3 days a week. The temple that I went to, the Hebrew school that I went to was in Beverly Hills, and I didn't live in Beverly Hills. So all of those kids knew each other. I was an outsider. Me and I had one other friend that I carpooled with. So she and I were like not a part of that group, but she knew people in that group. So I was like already an outsider. I loved school. I was excited to be there. I loved learning. I loved having the answers, knowing the answers, raising my hand. It was like the kind of thing where it's like I wanted to be the first one with my hand up and have the answer. And so I was super excited, and excited about learning and showing off that I knew the answers. Now, second or third grade, I remember the teacher asked, what do you guys like to do in summer? Because we were just coming back from summer. And so, I raised my hand. I was like, actually, I'm happy summer's over because I like being here at school and I like learning. And the kid sitting next to me said, well, that's dumb. And everybody laughed at me. And from that point on, I was made fun of. And then when I got into fourth grade in Hebrew school with, it was like bigger class, everybody was making fun of me. And there was one girl in particular, Monica, who was ruthless. And every time I raised my hand, she would make a comment. Every time I had the answer, she would make a comment. If I got it wrong, she'd be like, oh, you got it wrong, you know everything. And at a certain point, because the teachers weren't able to stop it, the principal wasn't able to stop it, at a certain point, I was like, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. And so I stopped raising my hand. And it didn't stop. It got worse. And she'd be like, why aren't you raising your hand? You always raise your hand. Why aren't you raising your hand? Don't you know the answer? And so, it was this barrage of stuff that I was dealing with 10 hours a week from, again, from the time I was like 7 or 8 years old until I was like 13 or 14, that had me decide that it's not safe to put myself out there. It's not safe to succeed. It's not safe to show off. And so I hid whatever successes I had. If I got a gift, if I got new shoes, if I got new clothes, I wouldn't wear those to school because I didn't want to stand out and be a target. So that was Hebrew school. Junior high, I ended up making a lot of friends, and I didn't know a lot of people going into junior high. And so even though there were people I knew and friends that I had, there were parties that I wouldn't go to. I would say I was sick because the fear of being rejected was too much. When I got into music, I was in, bands that were really good, but I would, do things not to stand out. People would, make comments to me about, oh, well, you should do this to stand out more. This is your job. Like, people that were in the audience who were like friends of the band would make comments to me. And so I always felt like I was under a microscope and I couldn't do anything right. And it was all rejection is how I took it. My friendships, my close friendships, I always felt like I was the sidekick, and that, whoever my friend was the one who got all the attention, who got all the accolades, got all the girls, got all the whatever, and I was like just the guy who was along for the ride. And I had already become quiet Maddie at that point. And I didn't say much, and I didn't contribute much, and I didn't want to speak up, and I had stuff to share, but it wasn't until I would get to know somebody that I would actually talk. And so, this went on through my 20s and all of that. And so, at a certain point, I got that I didn't have to do that anymore, and so I started putting myself out there. And it was interesting that I always chose careers that were like in the arts, like music, acting, writing and directing came later. But so I got that I could put myself out there, and And so I've been doing that, and there's been a lid on the level of success that I can have or that I can share, because I didn't want people to hate me, or uh, push me away or shut me out, or um, feel bad for my success. Now, again, as an adult, I can very easily be like, oh, well, fuck them, who gives a shit? But as the 8, 9-year-old child who was at the effect of that, who to him, this was, I'm gonna die, and this is embarrassing, and there's nothing anybody can do about it, and I'm not safe. That's where I've been protecting myself. And so we all have experiences, whether it's school or being beat up or raped or whatever the experience is, right? I know that there are far worse things that could have happened to me, and that was my break from belonging. That was where it was established for me that I'm not part of the group. The only way for me to be safe is to kind of go along with things and to be chill about it and to be likable and have people like me, because if they like me, then it'll be okay. And in order to be likable, I can't be better than them. Right? I can't be more successful than them, because then I'm not going to be okay. So what do we do with that? For some people, with some things, like it's as easy as just recognizing that and being like, all right, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. And then there's the shift. And that's fucking awesome. And then for some people and for some issues like that, it takes work. And so, it's sitting in that. It's recognizing, okay, my 8, 9-year-old self has been dealing with this for 30-something years. And affirming and meditating and getting in that place and talking to that child, and looking around at the things that are working and where I do have the support, and where I do see that the people that are close to me really want me to succeed, and they're genuinely happy for me. And so there's work in there to be done, and it's a diligent thing, because it's easy. It's so easy that it can almost be like I would rather just stay in that place, because I know what to expect and I know that I'm safe, even though I'm safe with the fear of all this shit that could happen to me, if that makes sense. Yeah. So most of us are dealing with stuff. Most of us are dealing with heavy stuff, and there are ways to zero in on what it is. Like, this was a blind spot for me. Like, I knew that this happened, but I didn't get how big of a deal it was. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. It just happens that this was a big deal for me, and it's something that I've been holding on to for dear life, because I want to be safe, loved, and accepted. And even though I know that I am loved and accepted, I haven't felt safe. So I'm sharing all of this. Maybe this isn't the most inspiring, empowering video I've ever done. But I'm sharing all this because we're all going through stuff. Most of us are going through stuff. We will all go through stuff at some point in our lives. And what's been really helpful to me is to know that I'm not alone. To know that I have people that I'm surrounded by that care about me. And so for you, who I'm sharing this with, you're not alone, and there's people around you who care about you and support you. And if you're sitting there going, well, no, there's not, I am. If you're hearing this, I care about you and I support you. So that's it. That's what I got. thank you for listening. Thank you for, I hope this has made a difference. Thank you for sharing. I do coach people one on one. I have a group coaching program that's starting up soon. I would love to support you in whatever it is you're dealing with and whatever it is you want to create for yourself and your life. Um, do something nice for yourself today. Reach out to somebody, have a conversation. All right, take care.